Hi there, good noon, and what's up? Oh, in fact, it is 12:01. There was some technical issue at my end, so I got delayed by a minute. So I can actually say good afternoon today. And as usual, if you have any issues, if there is anything whatsoever that you want to know, use the comment box very liberally to reach out to me. And as you can see, we plan to work on grammar today. So, CMAT, grammar, that's the agenda. I welcome you to BYJU'S exam prep channel dedicated exclusively to the success of MBA aspirants. My name is Vikrant. I've been teaching for 22 years, and in these 22 years, I've helped thousands of students achieve their dreams. I am going to be your personal coach for all things related to English and communication. And by the way, I also talk about the mental aspects of preparation on and off. So if you have those issues, don't hesitate in reaching out to me. So before we start the session, before I take you to the grammar questions, let's have a quick look at what kind of things do we get in the CMAT exam. So it's a 180-minute exam that happens to have 100 questions, +4 and -1 is the marking scheme. And during this exam, they expect us to go through 5 sections, where one of them, innovation and entrepreneurship, happens to be a new section. I mean, it was there last year, but last year it was optional. This year it is no longer optional, and I'm sure you are attending Srinivas's sessions and are benefiting immensely when it comes to innovation and entrepreneurship, right? So within English, within language comprehension, one of the things that the examiner asks us is grammar. So you can reasonably expect somewhere around 4 to 6 grammar-based questions. Most of the questions asked in CMAT essentially test you on just one thing, and that one thing is error identification. Now the presentation may differ. They can ask error identification questions from us in 4 different ways. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to your ability to look at a sentence and figure out whether it is grammatically correct or not. And in case it is incorrect, which part? Okay, so let us go ahead and dive into those 4 varieties that the examiner puts us through to test our ability to identify grammatical mistakes. So this is your way, this is your step towards becoming a grammar Nazi. So work with me, पर ऐसा करना नहीं है, ठीक है? क्लास में, एग्जाम में एरर आइडेंटिफाई करने, जिंदगी में मत करना. मैंने बड़ी मुश्किल से एक चीज सीखी है, that you can either have friends or you can correct people's grammar. I do it as a profession only in my classes, only in these sessions. Outside of it, I don't do that either. Okay, so choose well. But in this session, we'd of course do that. So here is your first question on the screen. So as you can see, you have been given a sentence that is divided into 3 parts. If any of these parts has a mistake, mark that as your answer. On the other hand, if you think that the sentence is absolutely correct, there is no problem with it, go ahead and choose D, no error, and your time starts now. Yes, Prajwal. I read it late, नहीं तो मैं थोड़ा पहले शुरू कर देता यार. Good afternoon. Crazy Ajay, nice to see you here again. Shrishtu, that's a new addition to our session. How are you doing, Shrishtu? Okay. Oh yes, the correct answer here is indeed A. Instead of between, we needed among. Or if you want to be a little more fancy, you can also write amongst. Both of them can actually be used interchangeably. Amongst is a little more formal than among. There was a time when there was a rule that dictated among versus amongst, but that is a rule that we've not been observing for a good 20 years now. So A it is. By the way, can somebody enlighten me? Can somebody tell me the difference between and among? Go ahead, share that with me and we'd see. Until then, let us solve. Let's have a crack at question number 2. On your screen, Sadhana is right. Absolutely, Akin. Sadhana was right. So your time for question number 2 starts now. Okay, so Ashmita says between is used for 2 people. Let's continue this after our second question. We'll continue between versus among after this question. So what's our take on question number 2? After studying for a few years, he forsake his studies in applied linguistics, even though his family was against the decision. So very clearly, you look at this part, you look at C part, and you realize that we are talking about the past. So when you're talking about the past, you cannot use the first form of the verb. Forsake is used in the present tense. What we needed here was the second form, and that is forsook. So what we needed was forsook, and that is why our answer to this question is option B. And now going back to between versus among, a lot of you told me between is used for two, among is used for more than two. What if I tell you that between can also be used for more than two? Here you go. The next series, okay, or let's just pick up something from politics. Talks are, there is a joint naval exercise going on between Iran, Russia and China. Let's simplify it. Talks are going on between Iran, Russia and China. Correct, incorrect? So I have three elements here. Talks are going on between Iran, Russia and China. Is this sentence grammatically incorrect? Should I say among? No, the sentence is correct. Even when you have more than two entities, you can use between, provided every entity, every element is individually named, is individually identified. तो अगर दो से ज्यादा भी हैं पर उनमें से हर एक चीज को अपने अपने नाम से एड्रेस किया जा रहा है तो between ही यूज करेंगे. You use among when you have more than two that are not individually identified. Okay, so let's move over to our next question now. Question number 3 on your screen, and your time starts now. Five seconds to go. Let us see what you give as your answer. So, researchers have discovered a new subtype of HIV called HIV-1, which is the foremost time a subtype. Does this sound okay? What does it even mean? What does it really mean? When do we use foremost? Guys, when are we supposed to use foremost? It's a foremost basically means something that is important. Something that is right at the front when it comes to priority or so on and so forth. So what we needed here is not foremost. It is not an important subtype. What we require here rather is, should I say first? So if we replace foremost with first, that should fix it. So let's just stick to it. So researchers have discovered a new subtype of HIV, which is the first time a subtype of HIV has been found in almost 2 decades. That's all right. So therefore, our answer here should be option C. So C it is. And with that, let's move over to our next question. Question number 4 on your screen, and your time starts now. So once again, 3 parts with no error. Okay, in 2 and 3, you did not have no error as a choice, but it is back and your time starts now. Mahesh, why are you remembering Binod? That was a meme. It was popular almost 6-7 months ago. Ooh, this one is very subtle. There are just 5 seconds to go. Let us see if you manage to spot it. Very subtle, guys. Very subtle. I'll give you 5 extra seconds before I discuss it. Okay, so I see one answer. Ooh, so the thing is, when you use like for comparison, you are not supposed to use the. So what do we say? Like my ancestors, I have also been a very hardy and focused individual. So you don't say like the most post-colonial scholars, you'd say like most post-colonial scholars. So we basically needed to remove the. I have written reams about. So writing reams about mean that you've written a lot about what? The double standards of Western colonial and imperial powers. And that's absolutely right. So everything else is fine about it except that the in part A, and that is why that should be our answer. And with that, let me take you over to the next question. Question number 5 on your screen. There is once again no error is gayab. So this sentence definitely has some mistake. Let's see if you are able to spot it. And your time starts now. All right. So absolutely yes. So I think the moment so many of you started giving me C, I realized that you've definitely gone through the basics of grammar. This sentence tests your understanding of subject-verb agreement. Indeed, part C is erroneous. The subject for this verb is plural. Therefore, instead of was, what we require is were. And since everybody knows this, we can move on. There are just a couple of issues some of us have with B. So police surveyed a few colonies in Guntur city and found that 70% of the women, absolutely fine. Because you're talking about 70%, you have to use a plural noun here. You cannot use a singular noun here because it's a countable one, right? So you definitely, women is going to be the correct one. So C is our answer. And now let's switch over to the next question type. In this question type, what the examiner does is that he gives us 4 different ways of writing a sentence. So you notice the same sentence, the same idea written in 4 different ways. One of these 4 is grammatically correct, and that one is supposed to be marked as our answer. And because these questions can be a little lengthy, I'm skipping the timer. No timer, but the moment I get 5 answers, I'll start the discussion. So go ahead, give it a crack. 5 answers to make me unzip my mouth. Okay, so I have right 4, 5 answers. Okay, now that I have all the answers, let's dive into it and start talking. So first up, some of those easier things. Okay, twofold or twofold. So twofold are 2 different words. It's a single word, twofold. So you don't write them as 2 separate words, though there are times when you may write it with a hyphen. Without that, it is definitely wrong, right? The other thing is fallout is singular, so we cannot use are, it should be is. So B is definitely out. What is the other difference? Off, from, through. I think D everybody has ruled out. So fallout of something is the correct grammatical expression. This question tests our understanding of fixed prepositions or dependent prepositions. So because it is fallout of, we can also rule out C and therefore choose A as our answer. So B actually had three problems: from, are and twofold written as two separate words. Here is the next question for you. Question number 7 on your screen. Once again, 4 different ways of writing the same sentence. Choose the correct one. Okay, so I do have quite a few answers. Now let us start checking these. The first one that I ruled out was B. After every, you are supposed to have a singular noun, so you cannot have stars. So B is definitely ruled out. Let's check A. All stars have a hot core where protons fuse together and generates. Ooh. The subject is stars, right? All stars have a hot core where protons fuse together and generate. The subject here is protons. So protons fuse together and generate. So you notice fuse here is plural, but then suddenly we've introduced a singular verb. So A is ruled out. That leaves you with C and D. So what is the difference? Each star has a hot core in which protons fuse together, generating energy that pushes back against gravity. Sounds fine. Anything wrong with D? Each star has a hot core fusing protons together, generating energy and pushing back against gravity. Is it the core that pushes back against gravity? It's not the core. And that is why this third part becomes meaningless here. It makes the sentence weird in terms of meaning. And that is why we can rule it out. So it is not the core that is pushing back against gravity. It generates energy. It is that energy that pushes back against gravity. This simply makes it appear a case where 3 things are being done by the core. That makes the sentence weird, meaningless, and that is why we should opt for C as an answer. And as I can see, it did prove tricky for quite a few of us here. Here is one more question of the same variety. Let us go ahead, solve it, and then we'll look at it. But you guys are doing really well in terms of giving the responses. You've been very fast, absolutely amazing. Keep at it. Okay, I expect you guys to solve it really very fast because you have done amazingly well in our previous subject verb agreement question. Shinde, what is Q? Not even an option. Okay, representatives plural are plural, but then notice cells. So plural, plural, singular. That's wrong. Should have been cell. So let's rule out A. Representatives plural is singular, cells singular. Wrong. So let's rule out B. C does not seem to have any subject verb agreement issue. How about D? Representative who is. So singular subject and then plural verb. D is also wrong. The correct answer is C. Simple subject verb agreement question where you just had to be a little more meticulous. Just had to pay attention to the detail, and that could have helped you figure out the correct answer. right? So 8 questions down, and now let me take you over to the next variety where we can be tested on our grammar with the help of fill in the blanks. So by now you have gone through, I'm sure, a lot of fill in the blank questions. They fundamentally can test your vocabulary or your grammar, right? So here is a fill in the blank question that tests your grammar on your screen, and your time starts now. Okay. Within 5 seconds, I got all the answers that I needed. So absolutely the correct answer is D. And that should settle it, I think. My okay. Some of us have chosen my, me as well, but then you notice my is a possessive adjective. You need to have a noun or a pronoun coming after it. Therefore, it can be ruled out. I happens to be a subject. It is not the place of a subject, so B is also ruled out. So me versus mine was what it all boiled down to then. So she's a close friend of me. She's a close friend of mine. Wherever you want to show possession, relation, or ownership, you use a possessive pronoun, and that is why mine. Me is just an object pronoun. It does not show possession. Here is question number 10. This one is going to test you in a slightly different way. There you go. So your time starts now. Why don't you go ahead and look at it? So partly comprehension, partly grammar, and everybody has managed to get it right so far. I think barring one or two answers, the correct answer is indeed option D, till. Now, after one answer was C, so once she has been restored to health, why do you need to take care of her? So that'll make it a little weird. What is the difference between until and till? Any difference? Only one. You can use both of them interchangeably. Until is considered a little more formal than till. Okay. So here is the next question. The last fill in the blank for you, and your time starts now. Okay. So I have 5 answers. Okay, so let us quickly check. Now this question basically tests our understanding of tense. So if I look at D, is changed. Do we use is changed? Yes, we use this structure, but in the passive voice. Whereas this is a sentence which is not in passive voice, it is in active voice. So D, let's just rule out D. That leaves you with A, B, and C. Now A, is changing, is the syntax of present continuous tense. When do we use present continuous tense? We use present continuous when we talk about an ongoing activity of the present, but then it is not an ongoing activity. Notice? So A is also ruled out. That leaves you with B and C, and this is where the real trick lies. So B is simple past and C is present perfect. Now you notice simple past and present perfect, both of them talk about past. Yes, even present perfect will talk about the past. So what is the difference between the two? The difference is very simple. when you talk about something that happened in the past, check for one extra thing. Is the time of that action mentioned? So if the time is mentioned, use simple past tense. On the other hand, if the time is not mentioned, use present perfect tense. So for example, I'd say, I saw her yesterday, but I have seen her. So you notice in the first one, the sentence included the word yesterday. So when did I see her? Yesterday. The time of the action was given. So I stuck to simple past tense. I saw her. But in the next sentence, when did I see her? It was not given. And that is why I used present perfect tense. I have seen her. Now, if you look at this particular sentence, do we know the time when this gentleman changed his appearance? No. We don't know the time at which he changed his appearance. That is why we cannot use simple past tense. It has to be present perfect tense. And that is what makes C the right answer for us. Okay. So that's question number 11 for you. Right. So I hope now you know the kind of knowledge that we're supposed to have for tenses. So there are two things that you want to know about each tense. The first is the syntax. You need to know which helping verb, which form of the verb is supposed to be used. But then the second and more important aspect is the usage. What kind of idea is represented using that particular tense aspect or tense category, right? So let's move over to our next variety. Here is the next variety. So you notice what the examiner does? The examiner gives you an underlined part, and that underlined part is written in 4 different ways. Our job is to go ahead and select the part that is grammatically correct. Unfortunately, I could not fit a timer here on this slide. So I'll once again rely on you giving me the answers. Give me 5 answers and we'll start our discussion. Fantastic, guys. Fantastic. So I think you go to work. So this at is incorrect. So is this from. So the rest of them are fine, convincing. But then convincing her to let her go, convincing him. Or her. So can we use her? We are talking about father. So A is also ruled out. So between C and D, what is the difference? D has convince, C has convincing. So it should be convincing, and therefore absolutely yes, C. And since most of you have gotten it right, we can move on. But those of you who are still struggling, if you think what's wrong with D, there is a particular concept that I want you to go ahead and have a look at. You've heard of something called gerunds. Particularly check gerundial phrases, and that should go a long way. Okay, so here is question number 13 on your screen. Give me 5 answers and you can make me discuss it. So very simple, very straightforward sentence that is stated using present perfect continuous. So we use present perfect continuous to talk about an activity that started in the past and is going on even now. So every present perfect continuous tense has a segment, has a part that talks about the time at which the activity started. So that part starts with either since or for. What is the difference between the two? Since talks about a point of time. So if I talk about a point at which that action started, I'd say since. For example, I'll say I have been living in Delhi since 2001. So you notice 2001 is a point of time. But we use for to talk about duration. So I'd say I have been living in Delhi for 22 years. So you just need to look at what comes after the preposition. Is it a point of time or is it a duration? Point of time, use since. Duration, use for. So here what I see is a duration. So with a duration, we cannot use since, and that is what makes this wrong. We need to use for, and that is why our answer is option B, which I think most of us have managed to get. Now, when you use C, some of us have also chosen C, but then you'd not be able to use present perfect continuous then. This tense is used to talk about an action that started in past and still going on right now. So if you use C, you'd also need to change has been living, which is not an option available to us, sadly. Right? So here is your next question with an underlined part. Go ahead and tell me which option is it happens to be the grammatically correct one. Five answers, guys, 5 answers. I have 1. Do I have more? Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so the correct answer is indeed B, politics. The way it is used in this sentence is an uncountable noun, and uncountable nouns are supposed to be followed by a singular verb. So this R is wrong. What we need is, and that is the only thing that we need to fix. If you look at C, C says looking for vulnerability. When you look for vulnerability, you are trying to locate weaknesses in someone else. But in this sentence, we are saying that there is a weakness in politics itself. So that is what makes C wrong. A and D both are still using R, so we can rule it out. Now, I want to draw your attention to the way I began my discussion. I said politics, the way it is used in this sentence, is an uncountable noun. What does it mean? Can we also use politics as a plural noun ever? The answer is yes. You know, in English, a single word can have multiple meanings, right? So politics also happens to have this other meaning where it can be treated as a plural noun. Here is a bit of homework for you. Once this session ends, pick up your dictionary, or you can of course Google for it as well. Pick up a dictionary, go to the entry called politics, look at the various meanings, and you'd see this one meaning where it is plural. Focus on that meaning and memorize it, because that concept has been used by the examiners to create questions in the past. So words like politics, economics, and the third one, mathematics, they happen to have a secondary meaning in which they are treated as plurals. So make sure that you know those secondary meanings as well, and you'd be making sure that you won't get these questions or questions based on these nouns wrong ever. Okay, so here is your 15th question on the screen, and once again give me 5 answers and we'll go. प्रज्वल मजे ले रहा, आज पता नहीं क्या हो गया भाई, कौन सा कोई रिजल्ट आ गया तेरा, या ऐसा क्या हुआ जो that has you very excited? So, Poonam, what's your take? Which answer would you mark? Mihir, why did you have an asterisk on B? कोई खास कारण उस स्टार को बनाने के पीछे बी के ऊपर? Okay, so our correct answer here is indeed option C, as a lot of you have stated. So first up, what is the difference between who, which and that? Who is used for persons, which and that are used for? Okay, who is used for persons, which is used for everything else. That can be used for persons as well as everything else. So because we are talking about performers, dancers, that is persons, we cannot use which. And therefore A is ruled out. D has most all of whom. That does not make sense. Either you say almost all. You don't have any expression called most all, so D is also ruled out. Now the difference between B and C is as good as well. On the list of performers are listed several dancers, almost all of whom dance as well as or as good as. So what is the difference? Good is used as an adjective, whereas well is an adverb. There is one very specific way, one very specific sentence where well can be used as an adjective, but then let's not dive into exceptions right now. Not needed for this question. So here we are talking about dance, a verb, and therefore what you need is an adverb and not an adjective. So B is also eliminated, and therefore we should go ahead and choose C. Right? So that's what I had planned for you. And before I end the session, here is a thought that I wanted to share. A lot of people have issues with grammar and then they remain worried, concerned, they talk, but then you want to become better, begin doing it. Start going through a grammar book, start practicing a lot of questions. And then I have a request for you. If you think this session helped you in any way, in that case, don't forget to hit the like button. Only in that case. If you think it was not helpful, don't do that. And if you're new to our channel, make sure that you subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you do not miss out on any of our sessions. Now, we obviously practice a lot of questions with you in person through live sessions here. If you want more practice, we upload section-wise quizzes every day on our app. So if you do not have the BYJU'S exam prep app installed it immediately, and that opens a gateway where you can practice more questions every day, and that too belonging to different sections. Additionally, we started this series on 6th of March where we talked about Maharashtra CET questions. So if you look at CMAT, Maharashtra CET, both of them are very similar exams. So you can join these sessions as well for even more practice with the faculty members right here on this particular channel. And then if you want to be part of this elite league of toppers, you can join them in the IIMs as juniors next year by subscribing to our comprehensive program, which gives you tons and tons of benefits. मैं बोलना शुरू करूंगा, 5 मिनट लग जाएंगे तो तुम देख लो. And to make it easy for you to join it, we have our next scholarship test happening on 18th of March. Write it, do well there, and we'd be willing to shave off up to 90% of our fees. Okay. And if you're somebody who's preparing for CAT 23 but attending this session, this can help you immensely. So make sure that you register for this as well. So that's it from me today. Sir, तुमका पेमेंट कितनी आहे? प्रज्वल, you are asking about how much I earn. अरे, तुम्हें पता है ना, औरत की उम्र और मर्द की सैलरी नहीं पूछी जाती. ऐसे सवाल कौन पूछता है रे? हाँ. Vaidehi, the questions that we upload belong to different sections. So we've not segregated them exclusively on the basis of the exam, But you definitely find English questions. So it could be RC, grammar, VA, and you do get all of these questions in CMAT as well. So make sure that you attempt them. It will be good practice for you. Crazy Ajay, when is the next session? Yaar, we keep taking our sessions every day. बहुत सारे हैं. For example, at 3 today, Gaurav sir will discuss logical reasoning questions. Then at 7, Naveen sir will have analytical reasoning questions. So even today you'd have 2 more sessions, one at 3, another at 7 on this channel, और app पे जो sessions चल रहे हैं वो अलग. So plenty of sessions happening, guys. Plenty of sessions. Okay. So that's it from me today. Make sure that you like, share and subscribe, and I look forward to meeting you guys in the next session. Until then, stay safe, stay focused, stay in touch. Okay. Take care. Have a nice day ahead.